All right, Adrian. What a way to start the day for me. It's 5:30 a.m. over here. 5:30 a.m. New Zealand daylight time, so it's actually more like 4:30 a.m. for a couple of weeks ago. But that's okay. Aside from my throat being a little sleepy, I am ready to roll on this evaluation, and it's so cool. I really love how you are using the less is more approach here. And I think that I can maybe help you out in suggesting what you could possibly add to, maybe bring more into it and to stabilize some textures and some functions and possibly balance a few things and so on. So let's get straight into it. Just mentioning that, hey, look, I don't have to give anybody advice about harp at the beginning of their piece this time, right? Or I don't have to give you advice about the harp. We'll talk about it later. It's mostly good scoring that you've got. Okay, so starting off with our little pile of evaluation criteria. So there is a concern, of course, that things are going to be too trebly in the orchestra if the orchestrator transcribes directly onto the orchestra what is in the piano score. And for the most part, you avoided that. You have got some nice low notes here and there. Sometimes even just like punching it, say like right in here, and just overall, there's a sense of innovation and changing things around to so that you don't really get stuck in any one particular vibe or any one particular texture. And that just leads us to the next concern, which is thematic material repeats often, possibly sounding repetitive if orchestrated the same way throughout. Because, in the piano score, basically, these two bars are more or less identical to these, and then those same two bars come back repeated again and again, right? Well, on piano, it sounds, incredibly exciting and direct. And the piano, like listening to piano music, you're sort of used to those repetitions without a whole lot of coloristic variation. But here, like, you have done the variation, and I think that's really lovely. So let's break down some of these orchestrations. And, starting off here, I think that's very wise, A2 up there, and then that's also doubled by the first clarinet, and then playing the sounding G sharp. We've got the second clarinet. So that's the only support there for that sounding G sharp. So I just say watch out. If it might not be quite enough, you know what I mean? It might not be supplying enough of that mediant. Then you got I like the way that you're dividing up your trumpets. You've got your solo trumpet on top and trumpets two and three below. So just a word to everybody. If you decide that you're your solo trumpet part needs to be, say, like on an E flat trumpet, in order to get some higher notes, then that becomes its own thing, and then trumpets 1 and 2 are below. And don't worry about giving the first trumpet of this group a subsidiary part. Okay, it's totally fine. That separate part will be divided up amongst the trumpet players according to the wisdom of the first. Right? They will make the decision. So I think that this all sits pretty well. It's interesting that you've got these fourths, but I think that they work. And it's an interesting spread too. See, you got your B octaves here. Non-divisi. That's pretty simple. Just so long as you don't do any fantastic scales in octaves. And this is easily done non-divisi as well. So yeah, and here I feel that we've got a workable version of that altalone. I feel like I'm describing a dish. I've been cooking a ton of Italian food lately. So yes, we've got that altalone approach, just down bow, down bow, down bow, down bow, and really nice. You're going to get this zooming effect, and it's going to be very, very just cutting, just sword-like. So I feel that will work great, and I'm really glad that you didn't put accented staccato on there, so I didn't have to explain that. So that's really nice. Okay, and then I think you intend for this to be the same way, right? Across here, like you want to go ba-dim, 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 ba-dim. So I think you should say sim right here, or just mark all of them with the little roll mark. Okay, so then, like in the next group, you put more weight on the upper register, and here the piccolo will stand out beautifully because of the strings are going to pizzicato, right? So you get that nice octave above, and then of course the oboe is actually doing more work here in underlining the piccolo with its beautiful kind of high silvery overtones than the flute is, right? And yeah, I just like the way that you shift the weight onto the middle winds very nicely right in here, and just that bassoon in the bottom, just making it all about the wind. So this is nicely orchestrated. Now jumping over to here, this section right here is somewhat similar to the first one. We got these same crush. So what you mean that you intend the first player to, or the second player to crush the grace note, like I'm just a little unsure why we've got this grace note here and then not on the other ones, right? Like, so anyway, just maybe you forgot to put them in, or maybe they were bothered to put in because of the beam, or I don't know why, but anyhow, it would have been cool to maintain that approach with the in the first voice. Yeah, so this is all pretty much kind of taken from here. But you've added xylophone, and you have shifted around this right in here, and you've got more of the mediant, right? We've got more of that G sharp, but we sort of have less B involved, but that's okay because the trumpets will do it all, right? The first trumpet will do it all. So that's fine too, right? And then going to here, you bring back your altalone strings, and this is I would say this is a pretty doable triple stop. I kind of like this one better. I'm sort of thinking, like, where would I put my fingers on the... I have huge fingertips, by the way. I have a violist or cellist fingertips. I don't really have a violinist fingertips, which is one reason why I changed to viola kind of halfway through my training. Yeah. So that is going to be just very effective. Right? Okay, so one of the things I'm going to mention about both of these little beginning 4-bar sections, I think it's very effective how you pick a group of instruments with which to go forward. You know, dun 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 bum bum bum. Right? You really kind of tie the one phrase to the end of the other, and that's totally fine. I know I've been doing a lot of crabbing about the sanctity of the rhythmic phrasing in this section right here with a lot of scores, but I think that there's no reason why phrases can't lead one into the other, right? Just so long as that you can feel where the with this kind of dance music you can really feel where the phrases are, where the rhythmic emphasis is. That's really more my concern than anything. And lest you think that's too fussy, I used to be the music director of a ballet company. That was like my first job in music. I was the music director of the Santa Rosa Ballet Company, and we even went on tour. It was fun. So now, looking at this, the thing that I'm going to say about it is it's like almost all melody right in here, and you've got pizzicato strings right in here, and it's a very kind of minimalistic interpretation of the accompaniment. See, we're on our next couple of criteria: the accompaniment figures covering a wide range, the melodic development soaring quite high. All right, so I just feel that your accompaniment needs a little bit more support. More than just this, just throwing in a couple of notes. Right in here, like there is the I would say that the second flute, like this B and this D, are just really not very strong. I mean, they're strong enough to do things the way that you've got them done, but I mean, I really wish that you had more support on your pizzicato here, and that maybe in general the accompaniment could be a little stronger here. Now, I mean, I'm not saying to bulk everything up, but the fact is that you have got trumpet coming in here, right? Marcato, and it is doubling the clarinet part, and then you're having your oboe come in here. And then the second tier, we've got first flute and piccolo, and then this is beautiful. This is exactly what to do here. The melodic development soaring quite high, accompaniment, so like you are going to just go over the top there with the D instead of forcing the first flute player to do it. All right, so what's a smoother transition here between some of these parts? What if you took the trumpet to the end of the bar, but went diminuendo? And then what if you started oboe at the beginning of the bar and went crescendo, right? From a very soft place. And the oboe was A2. Then you get the trade-off between the very that very emphatic sound of the trumpet to the somewhat trumpet-like sound of two oboes playing together. Now I realize that messes up your balance because you want your two clarinets here, and the clarinet plus the oboe, they do have a kind of a similar vibe. So you could ignore my advice if you wanted to, but I still think having a bit of a fold over, having a bit of a dovetailing dynamically would work really well. I think that just stopping right on the E, I think in this case the trumpet is stronger than you think, right? And then this rest will be very audible in most cases. So I think go a little further with a trumpet player and then diminuendo down to piano, right? So that this picks up on the crescendo, excuse me, and you get that just lovely that lovely effect of this turning into winds, right? Because a trumpet is like twice as strong, 3 times as strong as an oboe. So then going on into the next part with similar concerns, I mean, this is really nice. You've got your octaves, and you're taking everything way up to this high E. Okay, and I love the fact that you didn't throw ottava over it. You really are making yourself aware of the consequences of going all the way up to this huge stack of ledger lines. And you have a little bit of stabilizing piccolo. I feel you should start the piccolo a little earlier, like back here somewhere. And, you can crescendo into it. But I just feel that, like, as you go up, I think that if the piccolo just starts right on the A, it'll be pretty obvious, right? Because you're pretty much kind of scoring everything at forte, and actually that's better than fortissimo with this approach, right? So it's a wiser thing to do. But then you've got like mezzo forte here, and it's just a bit of a jumble, right? So just make sure that you like just stabilize this on its way up, and don't just start in the middle, right? In a way that is really obvious. So it's the same. It's kind of the opposite of this just stopping, right? This just starting, like says, oh yeah, the piccolo came in there, right? Or maybe it'd be better if like the piccolo comes in without anybody noticing it, but then at the end, its presence is beautifully scored. And and it's so cool that you are leaving this big gap. Such a cool idea. So now right in here, like your accompaniment pattern is just so much stronger, right? Because you've got your trumpets on it, and you've got flute an octave above, kind of playing the overtones, and then you have clarinets coming in with piccolo above, and so on. And not getting too high on piccolo, right? Just like really leaving the E as a surprise and the D as a surprise. So I think that's all really commendable, and I think it all really works great in terms of proportions. Like this is one of those scores that, like, even though you have a very, very light hand on scoring, the proportions work beautifully. All right, and then we get to here, and this is so cool. Here you've got E, 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 and then you've got your other violins going, C, B, B flat, with the C octaves below, and that's pretty doable. And then we have we've got this tracking right in here, the B flat clarinet doubling the first clarinet doubling the top part of these double stops, and so on, right? And then this having its own independent line below in the second, and then the little contrary motion in there. It's just very, very, very simply orchestrated. Touch of xylophone in there, doing the da 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 dun, and just you're really, really laying off on the massive scoring, and it's very effective. And you're also balancing your brass and your winds and strings, and that's also very nicely done. And then this is so cool. Yeah, dun 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 dun, and like changing the texture slightly behind it, right? And then coming in here with the doubling with the oboe. So it really stays fresh, which, that's like the next concern on the page, which is upper middle register could feel relentless if there's no textural contrast to what happened previously, right? That, at least in the piano score. And here you have justified your decisions by making everything feel very fresh, right? That, everything changes around. All right, and now molto marcato. Yep, up, 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 up. Okay, this is very cool, and it's deceptive to the score reader, with the first trumpet actually taking the melody, and what looks like almost looks like doubling at first if you're not paying attention. This is actually the harmony below in the English horn. And yeah, I think that is a very nice teaming up of these instruments. Now, you might, if you were really being fussy about it, you might mark the first trumpet down to mezzo forte or something like that to get a better balance with the winds. But I think that it's okay. The one thing that I sort of miss is the pushing forward, right? There's a crescendo from the molto marcato, right, that goes across for the first three bars, and then a diminuendo at the end. So I feel that sort of flux is, that that push in there is really important to the music. Yeah, and then I love the way that you trade off here to the first clarinet, kind of taking over on top. And once again, I feel that like diminuendo to crescendo, I think that you'll get a better dovetailing. Maybe start the clarinet back just one beat, and then have the crescendo into the part, crescendo into the line, and diminuendo out of it with the trumpet. And then here, a perfect, beautiful trade-off between bassoon and English horn. And I mean, you can also fade out the English horn a little bit right at the end, but because the timbres are similar enough, not the same, but they're similar enough that they will feel like it'll feel like a very smooth handoff. Right, and then you come back in with the trumpet right in here. That's really such a neat idea, going to clarinet and then coming back. And then, of course, with the strings backing you up, and this all setting up the next part. So I would say that innovatively, you fulfilled the last criterion, which was maintaining driving staccato and transitioning smoothly to the next passage. Right. So this is a beautiful, smooth transition. All right. So there are a few wrong notes in this score, and I will try to point out a few of them. Like, for instance, F sharp, right? You're spoiling my beautiful my beautiful Phrygian scale here by throwing in that F sharp, right? It almost turns it into like a Dorian scale when you do that. So right here, this is a really good start. We've got the melody in the trumpets and octave strings, and this sort of bustling energy coming from the cellos. It's just exactly perfect, with the double bass tracking from below and the viola supplying some of those middle harmony notes alongside the first and second trumpet. So I would one of the only things that I would say here is it's there was no flexing of the dynamic here, which I still think there could be. You could, even though you're doing handoffs. Even though you're doing that, you could still throw in some kind of crescendo and then diminuendo. In that way, the dynamics could be written in on the downbeat of B. Right, and everybody could get one, including an instrument that you forgot about right here, which is your second and third trumpet. Right, we can't just leave. This is too far away in the context of starting a new passage. Right, you do need to tell us what's going on here. So the way that you got this scored, right in this place here, the trumpets will really dominate right in here, and they'll also dominate the inside of this. Of these functions. And so that's just something to think about with the next stack of criteria: contrasts of color and breadth of texture, maintaining differentiated roles in close-spaced melodies and overlapping accompaniment figures, highlighting inner voices, right? So we'll talk about that more as I turn the page, but just think about the balance right in there by having these trumpets just be really prominent. And now, going forward with B, I just really love the way that you keep everything fresh all the way through. I mean, it's just so satisfying. There's still a few things I think I can help you with, but, I mean, it's light textured enough to where you can have these lovely lines here in your harp. So everything's cool with the harp except with this kind of mixed texture and so on. I think that you should have forte crescendo each time. Forte crescendo, right? So just really to tell the harp player to play out. And then, you've got that bum, 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 bum. Yeah, da, 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 dum. This is very nice, right? So, so look, if we have the B flat here, right? Yeah, da, 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 dum. So that's Phrygian, right? So get rid of the F sharp in the previous bar in the cellos, I believe it was. Right? Okay, so first problem right in here, and that is looking at the original score. You had a section where the left hand plays a few notes, and then the right hand plays a melody, right? But see, the thing is that wasn't just the left hand playing a few notes. That was actually the beginning of the counter melody, right? It starts here, and then the right hand trades off and takes it over, right? So I feel that that by just chopping it in half like this, we lose the continuity of that wonderful da 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 da. Right? It just really should, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and like really kind of need that sense in there, right? So, what if you had some other scheme here, like maybe the bassoons were taking responsibility for this, and you had the bass clarinet dovetailing into the first clarinet right in here, right? Just to but you could leave the cellos in there to just they could just kind of cut off as they went. But would it be possible to get that? I'm starting to sound like a guy scatting. All right, and then the same thing here with the violas. Like you don't even need that. The bassoon can easily reach this F, right? And then right. So it's all really possible. Yeah, the one thing I'm just going to point out is that the line here is actually leading to the triplets. So if you felt like having the first play the triplet, right? Right, and the B is just coming in on top because it is the melody note, right? Bum 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 ba da da dum. Right, so here's where the melody starts in the horns. Or if you just wanted to, you could just cut this entirely with the bassoons and just come straight in with the horns and come in a little bit more emphatically, maybe, right? Just so that we know that this really is the start of the melody, because it's a little vague at the beginning and it's a little vague at the end, right? So, yeah, but I mean, I just feel like really making it very clear that this is a continuation of this is the continuation of the counter melody going straight to the triplets, and then that sets up the energy of the triplets. Okay, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself because I don't want to leave out all of this cool stuff. So let's jump back a little bit. So we have that and I really love the way that you bring in your staccato strings. Okay, I feel that works really great. And then bum bum bum, yeah, dun, 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 dun. That's all really really effective, right? And that with the timpani bum 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 bum, just a little touch, really really nicely done. Yeah, the same comments once again. This could like start the melody. This is the counter melody starts on the downbeat, right? And just because it hands off between the two hands in the piano score doesn't mean that it isn't all one thing, right? And as far as this is concerned, like here you're like if you're going to write in the one, you don't need the second voice rests to tell us that this is the first player, right? Yeah, and just like before, I would just say it's okay to just lose the B, have it stated more emphatically, give the accent to the first player, to the first horn player, and just don't worry about that. Just make sure that this connects very very clearly. And you could even have like the cellos come in, maybe right in here, right, so that it's really really clear that this has its own character, right? The as I say in the evaluation criteria, that we have differentiated roles and closely spaced melodies and overlapping accompaniment figures, right? Okay, and that we highlight the inner voices. All right, now there's this other little like mild concern I feel in the scope of things, but could turn into tragedy, and that is maintaining differentiated, keeping high interjecting notes from sounding too glaringly repetitive. So you have this little chirp up here, which is in the piano part, an octave lower, but it's still really effective the way that you score it out between the two flute family members here. Very cool. And then you're just throwing in this little beep right in there at the top of the crest here of the harps trading off to the violins and so on. And that's pretty effective. And then and then we get to like going forward. The next one in the piano score, anyways, is 2 bars away from this, like right in the middle, and you just drop it, and I think that that's perfectly fine, right? So it's just a case where you do not have to throw in every single thing, right? Like, and there's those little thirds that come in, like right in here, in the piano score. You also drop them, and that's fine too. They don't have to be in. If they're not part of the overall scheme, then that's fine. But I do think it's great that you threw in that sounding A major third right here. Okay, so moving forward. So do you differentiate the triplets from the melodic line? Do you keep the triplets from overwhelming the melodic line? Well, the thing about it is that you score the triplets very nicely. Like I love the way that you add some support here from trombones at the beginning, and then you tail off, and then you just sort of leave it to first bassoon and cellos going forwards, and then you have the bass clarinet take over, and that's also really cool because you are giving the audience, some unconscious, that most people would just not even be aware, give them some unconscious support. So watch out for this 2 here. It should go right under the staff, okay? Because it looks like you're saying, hey, second bass clarinet is going to play this part, right? So just really keep that tight up to the bottom of the staff. So one thing that maybe you didn't think of, and that is bass clarinet works really nicely with cellos, but who it really works nicely with is violas, right? So you could just, you don't have to do anything special. You could just have the violas take over right here. And then you get this just beautiful, smooth, silky sound that is, it's the combination of the cello with the bass clarinet is more of a chesty sound. The combination of the of the bass clarinet with the violas is a more silky sound, right? Even though the viola is a more chesty instrument, right? It's like it has this wonderful heart-rending quality, but in this case, this is going to be in sort of the middle lower range of the viola, right? If you jump this up to here, so that's more of a silky sound. And would be a wonderful combination and a good trade-off so that you're just not stuck in the cello zone for too long. And of course, that is part of the whole concern of keeping textural contours fresh and not too much the same, as I've got in my list, right? That just gives you an alternate sound. All right, so let's talk about that melody, because I feel like you start. Like here you're going crescendo to mezzo forte, and you had mezzo forte back here, so what's going on here? And then you have the accent on the bassoon, on the first bassoon, and not on the beginning of the French horn, right? And then you put in an accent here, but what is going on with the actual part, right? It says accent tenuto, right? So bum 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 ba da da da. This is kind of strange. It's like here you got crescendo, and then you have mezzo forte. You're telling mezzo forte at the beginning, and then you go diminuendo to mezzo forte in the first. So do you intend for this to be like forte or poco forte or some other kind of thing? So I would say just start at forte, right? So start at forte. This can be forte, crescendo, right? And then diminuendo, right? And then just, back to forte again. Or excuse me, back to mezzo forte. So mezzo forte, crescendo, forte in both parts, diminuendo, back to mezzo forte, right? I mean, I know you don't want to overwhelm everything else that's going on. But that's also supposed to go crescendo too, right? Like the triplets. I think if you leave them out of the action, then it just really is kind of dull for them, right? Like what's going on here dynamically? Nothing, right? You got a little diminuendo right in here, whoopee, right? So look, add them to this. Throw in the diminuendo in here and let the horn stand out a little. It's fine, right? And then I really love how you bring in trumpets here at the octave. Now you're trading off to the third here. Okay, once again, second, like the little 2 number should be right up here. I don't know if this is a Dorico thing, but if it is Dorico, fix it. The number shouldn't confuse the score reader. So yeah, and I think that it's perfectly fine to trade off to the to your third here, but I think you should, if you're going to do that, then just have your first end on a quarter note, right? And end on a quarter note at piano. So bum bum bum, and then have this also start with, if the crescendo is here, then forte here in your third, right? And then diminuendo quickly, and then back to mezzo forte, and then the crescendo again, right? And then trading back to the first, and again, like here, I think you can go E diminuendo, and then here just have this lead to a quarter note and trade off to the first. And of course, like this wonderful cushion in here of the strings. So like you just need to fix up the beginning because I can't tell where the melody is starting, right? But other than that, the balance between the triplets and the melody is really nice, right? Just kind of a mention about the tambourine. I felt that the tambourine was really intrusive at the end of that marcato thing. Yep, it just just to jump back for a second. Yeah, I just felt I don't know how successful this was. It just sort of felt like, hey, I'm getting attacked by the tambourine here. And like in the absence of a crescendo in the other parts, it just really sort of felt like, it almost felt a little bit like the white noise was being turned up, right? Rather than excitement, from something kind of vibrating and hissing. Okay, but right in here, the tambourine is nice. So yeah, so just basically my only problem with that is kind of the way that this ends. There's really no need for the third to come in here and do anything. It's perfectly fine to have your second play this, and then to just back off and have this just stay with the first, where the first can really control it nicely, right? And continue on. So it's very, very clear that the melody is still present, right? And if this is going to back down to piano, then by golly, so does the triplets. Now they also need to back down so that they're not too prevalent. Then here, just kind of a comment about the overall tempo markings. You have a very kind of fast approach. A lot of my suggestions about using the very dramatic tempo scheme of the pianists, most of that is sort of ignored in your score. And one of those things that the pianists do is that they ritardando here, right, and then they throw in what is essentially an allargando here, right? So I allowed that in the template to just be the the French word for slowing down, right? But that was really the intention, is that this would really be a big push, right, into the next phrase. And I feel that like you're sort of that is something that would go so well in this score that is sort of being left out, right? Now, this fortissimo single harp note. I'm not sure how effective that is. And you're starting off with a kind of cool idea of like bass clarinet and then clarinet and so on, but like with a proper allargando, you could really be expanding the music, right? That's one of the criteria. Is there a convincing allargando expansion that's similar to what the piano does, rather than just kind of rushing into the next bar? Which is one of the reasons why I put a rehearsal mark here, is because I really wanted people to think of this last bar as being part of the next section. It's like the introduction to it. It's just a really big, just a big, like big arms reaching up and slowly lifting the music up to the next level in this big mighty effort. So if you listen to the piano score or the piano performance by Peter Bradley Fulgoni or by Alicia de la Rocha, you can just really kind of hear that sense of lifting, right? That just real big push. And one of the things about that is one of the reasons why I preserved the pedal mark there was just to let people know that the pitches the pitches sustain, right? The way that the piano is being played, the pitches sustain to the end of the bar, right? So each new pitch that you start could also sustain in your arrangement. Now, you've chosen not to do that, and that's fine. I mean, so this is your interpretation, and that works for you. But I mean, I just think maybe you could rethink this bar right in here, so that so that we really have an allargando there, like we have a ritardando setting this up, and then that helps this line to die away, right? So, like, if you really have pulling back, da da dum, da da dum, da da dum, ba da 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 dum, ba da 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 dum. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like it's very, Alicia de la Rocha. Who would know more about Spanish music being, turned into classical music than her, right? I mean, like she has got the soul there, right? So I'm just saying, follow her lead, not mine. I'm just following her. So just think about ways of just making this so passionate that like the audience completely follows your lead and says, "Yeah, Adrian, I'll do that. I'll listen to that. That's amazing. Okay, what's happening next? I'm on the edge of my seat." Right? That's I think what you want there. But I do have to say that I really like this rip up here with the trumpet and this big gushing roll here in the harp. I mean, I see what you're trying. You have like the big. You have the kind of the reach upwards. It's not a big reach, but you have this sort of reach upwards in the clarinets and so on. And then, a big harp roll. I mean, I kind of see what you're doing here, but I still feel that there needs to be a bit of an allargando here. Now, right here, you really have to communicate what the original score says, right? I mean, whether that's just saying the original Italian, okay, but like twice as slow, okay, it's not but always moving, but it's but it's a little more, right? Do you know what I mean? It's there needs to be a little bit, so it's twice as slow, but it's a little faster than twice as slow, right? All right, so this is a really cool interpretation of of that accompaniment pattern, and like the pizzicato and the little touch of viola in the middle. Now here you don't need to really don't need to switch this off. Okay, very expressive and singing with the melody always prominent, right? So look, you don't need to say that. That should come out in your scoring, right? You can leave that out. So I would say that like you're on the right track with this. So you've added a lot of nuances, and that's very, very cool. There is kind of an implicit crescendo in here, right? So if you put that in there, then you don't have to restate the mezzo forte here. There's a implicit flexing of the dynamic here too, right? And then crescendo, and you could actually make this portato as well. Da 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 da. I mean, there's so much. You could be even adding a couple more hairpins here and there. Okay. And then I really love this right in here. Okay, but where's the rest of it? Right? Like you have this, this is one thing that I felt a lot of interpretations left out was just the sense of bustling from the 16th notes in this bar, but then so you do it the first time in the first bar of the transition, but not on the second bar, right? You just go yada da dum, and there isn't any of that motoristic energy underneath, right? So I feel that really is needed. However, I really do like this these little transitional 16ths. I feel that really works well, and that leading to the yada da dum, it's nice, but it doesn't mean that the energy stops right there, right? This isn't enough, I don't feel. Yeah, and then so like right here, the big concerns on my list are careful treatment of the melodic voice to make it feel authentic to the composer's style. I think a trumpet solo, and then switching over to the strings. I think that does that very ably, and then keeping the accompaniment pattern from becoming too regular and therefore too predictable. What if instead of just changing over from one group to the other, you changed over to another group in another octave, right? Shifted things around, made things feel a little more restless and less tied down to one particular approach. And the same thing in here, right? So I'm not saying to change anything, but just consider that particular criterion, right? Just to what extent can you listen to what you're doing here in the accompaniment, saying, yeah, I kind of know what I'm going to do next, right? And how could you shift things around? Now, changing to bassoon here and so on, and working through some of these changes, that's really nice, right? And just throwing in a little harp and stuff, that's very cool. And but that just because these are violins does not let you off the hook in terms of the nuances. I think just as much. Same thing. Yeah, da 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 da, you could be throwing in like portato here as well. Da 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 da. Okay, so now what's in my template? Right, it's that is there is a real concern here. Managing the sense of restraint leading to a burst of energy, right? And that's what is in the piano interpretation. And I feel like you leaving that out is making, maybe it's real exciting to just let your piece continue to be really fast right in here. But it sort of takes away that sense of that kind of sense of thoughtfulness, right? Okay, see what I mean? See, it's like the same situation that we had leading into this new section here, right? It's just like, where's the drama? If we strip off the tempo nuances, right? Where there's drama within the flexing of the tempo, right? As well as the dynamics. Okay, but nicely interpreted right in here. And like I said before, just kind of minimalistic. You're going really easy on the orchestra. You could have easily built to a really big, very, very multi-layered kind of accompaniment here. But you sort of keep things in the background and just kind of carefully dole out the different colors. It's very it's kind of refreshing to see that approach to sort of balance a lot of the other fuller scoring. There's nothing wrong with either, right? But it's nice to not get all of one. So yeah, and but there are a few wrong notes within. Yeah, I think you need to go over the score and sort of really proofread and listen. There are just certain little notes. I don't have time to go over every single one of them, but you really have to be careful with this kind of thing, which is why I supplied the template, right? So if you changed pitches from the template, then change them back. Or I don't even know if you use the template. Anyhow. So, and then right in here, like we've got no tempo fluctuation at all, right? So here we should go to a rubato, shouldn't we? Dun 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 dun. Do you see what I mean? I just like we're missing some drama here because of the kind of a lack of tempo changing. Like, and I think that would just like completely, like immediately, put some muscle into it and some passion into it, right? I mean, there's some passion in there already, but it's not demanding as much from the listener. Well, this is cool though, like just having the cellos take this little solo, and then and this all works really nicely. All right, and that takes us to D, the agitato. So, yeah, yeah, marcato. I think staccato is better than marcato here, right? Same thing here. Just make it staccato. Okay. All right, right. So I think when you get to here, you should trade off a few notes to just once you get up to this, like it's a long time for the contrabassoon to be just going on and on and on and on. The tuba player, they can sneak a breath in here and there, but I think it's harder on the contrabassoon player, right? Yeah. What if you like traded off on this B flat here to like second bassoon, and then traded back, right? So you just give a second for the player to breathe, and then like same thing right in here. Like you could be trading off at any time to bass trombone. And don't make it at the same exact time. It's just a little too obvious. Bump 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 bump. How about right at this F here? And then maybe trade off on this A, back to tuba. All right. Now, having said that, I'm sure that there are some players out there that could easily do all 8 bars with no problem, right? But pianissimo, marcato, make that a staccato, right? Essentially, right? And then I mean that's really nicely done. I feel okay. And then once again, just what is tambourine adding here? I feel that it's getting in the way of, especially pianissimo, right? This stuff is all pianissimo low stuff, and these high frequencies are just they're getting in the way. I can't hear in the mock-up. I really cannot hear what's going on here, and I can't I can't quite make out the contours, and I'm sure that will happen in real life too, right? All right, and then that takes us to here. And then once again, there are a few wrong notes right in here. Okay. Now there's a little something about the bass right in here. I feel you need more support than you've got in there. It just feels a little weak, right? There's no reason why you couldn't enlist a little bit of support that you had before. Do you need all of the I mean, I really like the way that you have got the cellos and first violins working together, right? That's nice. And trading off to here, I think this could be in tenor clef, right? Well, you go up to C, but I mean, still, it's more of a tenory kind of a thing right in here. Right. All right. Well, I mean, I just feel like you need like a little bassoon in there, and then you can trade back to, since you're using your bassoons, you can trade back to contra, right? If you want to. All right, and I like the support from the horns. That's something I also did, using the horns to support on the syncopations. Yeah, I think this all works pretty nicely. Yeah, and then you're trading off first to second. That's fine because of the different functions. All right, and then you get to here. So I would say if you want a nice match of articulation here, then go to tenuto here instead of accents, because you are doing all down bows, right? All talone. So you are going to get just a very pronounced tenuto from your strings. So match that with tenuto in your winds. And then ya-da-da-da-da-dum in your bassoons. All right. So yeah, so here like you are obeying the piano score by going up and down and up and down. Okay, so that's great. So and then I mean, couldn't you go A2 with the bassoons here? Bum, 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 bum. And then go to octaves here. Da, 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 dum. And then throw the contrabassoon, doubling the second bassoon line, right? And then just go up and down and up and down and up and down. Yeah, just... Yeah, so what I'm talking about is A2 on this line with the contrabassoon below, and then contrabassoon doubling second bassoon with the line as you've got it written here, and then I think you just have a nice sense of higher, lower, higher, lower, higher, and then lower throughout to the end, right? Yeah, and then I really love the way you're bringing in the lower brass here. I think that's very powerful, and it's not hurting the texture at all. And you're kind of holding off. There's no harp in here. That's great. And then finally you really bring out the heavy artillery here, the heavy brass and the trombones in treble clef. I think this can be, you're only going up to B flat here. This could be in tenor clef. That's fine. And then and then this beautiful singing piccolo right in here. Yeah. Yeah, so look, it works pretty well. Tutis are not the most complicated things in the world to put together. And the way that you've got everything playing in octaves here that's absolutely perfect for this kind of string scoring. Right, you let the winds and the brass play the harmony, and you have the strings play the octaves, and then it feels like the strings are supplying the harmony as well as the octaves. Once you've stated all talone at the beginning, then just say sim here, and you don't need to throw in these markings every single time. Okay, so just say sim, and then they'll just do that whenever they get to a row of quarter notes. Okay, so now we're kind of running into another problem here, and that is, what is going on here dramatically? Da 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 dun dun dun. I mean, it is pushing towards this. It is not an easy thing to do, right? And you're making it easy by not throwing in a retardando there, right? So you da 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 ba da ba 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 ba, going forward. So it's just like ha ha ha. I'm sorry. I don't mean that you're treating this material lightly, but it just feels, it doesn't seem to have as much impact as putting in the sort of the ritardando, the rallentando, more precisely, in these two bars, so that we just really feel the effort of getting to the downbeat here, right? And then from here, I would say end with an eighth note, right? End this big, huge phrase on eighth notes, right? And then this is kind of cool. Done. So ended. Same thing here. Don't do a tie. You got a staccato there anyway, right? So just end it with an eighth note, then throw in the 16th rest, and you can go to your dun, da dun da dun da dun da dun pattern. And and you got yeah, it's really really cool. Okay, so you know what I recommend here? Mezzo forte. Mezzo forte in your winds, mezzo forte in your xylophone, and then fortissimo. Keep the fortissimo in the harp, and then you will get something of a balance. The xylophone wants to absorb the sound of the harp. That's just the way that it's made, right? They are both instruments that have a percussive attack and then a bit of a sustain afterwards. Of course, the harp has way more sustain than the xylophone, but the xylophone's extreme punctuation on the attack tends to kill the sound of the plucking in the harp. And then after that first note has been killed, then all you hear is the sustain, and you can't hear the sustain if everybody else is playing loudly, right? Mezzo forte on your winds, mezzo forte on your xylophone, fortissimo on your harp, and then you've got a balance in here. So, and then here, just forte, it's fine. I would say forte on the on your piccolo and flute, and then mezzo forte on your on the trumpet. Just is there a yeah, okay, so I don't like the I think this beaming is just really hard to read. I think it's better just to have single have single flagged 16th notes here. I think that's just easier to read. I mean, it's already staccato if you do that, right? So you kind of almost don't even need the staccato. So just and and then this is kind of the players are already going to be like almost like double tonguing. So like so the accents on the staccato are almost like they're really kind of gilding the lily here. So I think just fortissimo forte, mezzo forte, right? Just try to keep a more even, like, see, now that you see how you've got to rebalance this, then just bring the volume down a little bit. It's just as effective, right? Because like you're not trying to outplay what happened before, right? I mean, this came to this mighty ending here, right? And then what happens here? It goes to agitato, right? So there's all the more reason for you to shape this so that it comes to this mighty crashing finish here with a rallentando, and then you restart the new tempo at right, because it is it's like kind of freshly coming back to a new tempo. It's not this. It shouldn't be the same tempo. All right, and then you got your castanets here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and mezzo forte, right? Mezzo forte, mezzo forte, forte. And I think there's just too many. There's too much going on here. Get rid of these all of the articulations here. And just single 16th notes, no beams, and then back to same scheme that I said before, mezzo forte on the winds, and xylophone fortissimo on the harp to get a good balance. And this is nice, dun 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 dun. This is good. Don't change anything. Forte, dun 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 dun, and then yes, same thing as this. Single flagged 16ths, not beamed 16ths. Yeah. and then we're leading to this ending part. Ba-ba-dee-dee-da-dum. So nicely done. It's just a little trumpet, kind of schmaltzy, but really, really nice. Da 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 dum. You know what was in the original piano score? Ba da 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 da. Yeah, poco a poco, just decrescendo. You know, I just almost feel like you don't need these big, massive, long. You know, I mean, I think that you could have an expressive line and then eventually end up piano, right? Have nuances, add more little guides to the player. You know, da 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 da. Da, 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 da. And here, this could be a crescendo, not a diminuendo. Da, 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 and then a little softer. Da, 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 and then softest of all. Da, 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 da. See, you could just build that into the line without just dropping one long thing under it, because like the players are going to do that anyway, so you might as well give them the guidance, right? So I'd say these are, just make these little dynamically flexing phrases, right? Softer each time. So if we're starting off, hang on, I'm going to jump back. All right, so mezzo forte with expression. All right. All right, so then like go to mezzo piano here, right? And then piano, and then or you know, no, just leave it at mezzo forte, right? And then push into it, and then come out mezzo piano, and then piano, right? And then I think you have a really nice arc built into that. So, like, and above, like, you need to, I think that you could diminuendo a little bit here at the end, right? Now, okay, so the problem with transcribing the exact thing that the piano does is that you don't, within the pattern, you do get the rotating patterns, right? But you know, the problem is the notes that end up being held long, right? Da 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 da. We're really hearing that note, right? And then, you know, and then da 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 da, and so on. So it's like it's so like how do you get around that? So I think the way that I did it was I brought the harp in. So you're saying the temptation to add sweeping glissandi here was almost irresistible. Well, it was. You must have resisted it because I'm not seeing it. But yeah, but like, what if the harp came in or some other instrument? Like maybe you could just change to marimba here and have the marimba go right. So then at that point, like the punctuation of the mallet strokes or the plucking of the harp strings becomes the main thing, and then any notes that sort of seem to hang on in the strings just become like almost like a color behind that motion, right? So I'm just saying, like, that's the flaw that's built into this pattern, right? Is it like transcribing the pattern exactly onto the strings or onto the winds, as I've seen it in a couple of scores now. All right, so you're bringing everything down, and then ya da 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 da, and then what if you came in here pianissimo, da 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 to mezzo piano, da 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 da, with a little tenuto mark there, right? Yeah, I mean, just really, just lovely stuff right in here. I love the clarinets being the background pad. They're sort of like light horns, right? Yeah, and then ya bum ba da dum. So yeah, so once again, there are some wrong notes in here. You gotta look through it and correct them. All right, and then this is another thing. Yeah, crush. So I mean. So you mean like an acciaccatura, right? Not an appoggiatura. Right? So that it'll be played as an acciaccatura. So don't worry about that, right? If you don't have the little line through the flag, then it is an appoggiatura. So you don't have to write in crush, right? Unless there's some sort of specific, like, kind of jazz effect or some other kind of thing. All right, and then you got this, lovely transcription onto the flute family. This very, very cool. No problems there. And then this came on almost like an English horn part in the mock-up. And I'm thinking, you could just have the English horn play it, get a slightly richer sound and more in control. But it's fine on first oboe. It works cool with the the lovely cold sound of the bass clarinet below, doubling cellos to be sure. What if the cellos didn't double? What would it sound like there? Or maybe the cellos came in on this note. And this is something I did as well. The thirds and the clarinets, right? So, yeah. So without pressing a tempo. So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, just look at my mock-up. Look at the different things that I did there, right? So, like for instance, there was you're saying morendo. Morendo is really a dynamic mark, right? Not a tempo marking. So it should go in the parts, right? You're already writing in the parts. You're going down to quadruple piano. So like just check out what I did with the tempo right in here, and that's that kind of more follows what the pianists did in their interpretation, which is very soulful and very very hip to the way that Spanish music might be interpreted, say like with a solo guitarist or somebody who can just who doesn't have to worry about the band all being on time at the same time. And I don't have any big problem with the way that this was all scored. I just love that yada-dum, ba-da-dum trading off between the instruments. It's so lovely, right? Yeah, just no big problems here, except for one little thing. Okay, all right. So, and this is Thomas's theory of very soft dynamics and very loud dynamics. This works in either direction. Okay, so pianissimo is extra soft, right? And soft, right? The piano is an entire world of nuance, inflection, and so on. It is a way bigger world than we normally think. The problem with the dynamic thermometer is thinking of everything as a step up and down a ladder, right? And it's not that at all. So piano and forte both kind of have a whole world of nuance and inflection, and they're kind of main. They are more default than mezzo forte and mezzo piano, which is a lot of people are treating mezzo forte and mezzo piano as a default in the middle, right? As if that were just, but it isn't. It's someplace to avoid most of the time. So forte and piano are these nice big worlds, and then go to the outside of those worlds, we've got pianissimo and fortissimo, right? So extra loud, extra soft. Now, what I consider triple P and triple F to be as soft and as loud as you can still play musically, right? And then if you get to quadruple P, that is as soft as you can play unmusically, right? So it's a case where the note is so soft that you can actually hear the sliding of the bow across the strings louder than the actual pitch, the actual tone, right? Or, in the case of, trumpet playing, very unmusical, just, insanely loud playing, right? And then like quintuple piano and quintuple forte. I think that is like, just kind of getting away from music and just becoming more of a sound effect, right? So, screaming brass, it just kind of not really making any sense musically anymore, just being insane. And then, quintuple piano being more of like a sound effect, right? So within that spectrum, this is it's just here we're getting, like, if you still have musical meaning in your phrase, then the marking is too soft. That would be the way that I would approach this. And it could keep things from getting too soft, right? So here I think you've got this pizzicato here. You could have piano in your timpani. It's fine. You don't have to soft pedal. Like if everybody's playing softly, then it's fine. You don't have to back off the timpani so severely, right? So in diminuendo to pianissimo, and then just all the stuff in here, pianissimo, they can handle it. This can be piano if you need it to be, right? But I like the pianissimo. I like the idea of everything being pianissimo. And then here, this kind of doesn't make sense. Triple P. Oh, I see. So like you're saying that the fourth voice should be. I mean, it just look. It's okay. So let's say this is all pianissimo, crescendo to piano, and then back, because you need some, and then go end on pianissimo. Just keep it pianissimo, right? And then end on triple P at the end. And I think that's more. I mean, I know you're trying to be incredibly delicate here at the end, but I think it's going a little too far, right? So just back off. It's okay to score everybody the same dynamic when you are playing very softly. I look at the third movement, Farben, Colors, of the Schoenberg Five Pieces for Orchestra, right? He's got all these beautiful blends of different colors being played very softly by different groups, and they all more or less balance. It's funny, like at that very soft dynamic, who are the players that are having the worst time sounding incredibly soft? It's the double reeds, right? Especially the oboes and the English horn. Like, getting them to play incredibly soft is way harder on them than it is on the brass, right? The brass can just, the muted trumpet can just go down to almost nothing. All right, so really, this is more like niente, right? And like, I guess, yeah, clarinets and flutes and muted trumpet can, they can play niente. So really, if niente is what you intend, then that's fine. All right, but it's still, yeah, I just feel that you don't need to do that in order for this ending to be breathtaking. Right, and you certainly don't need to bring it in so soon, right? So if you are going to go to niente here, then that's fine, but just hold off a little bit. Just make it pianissimo in here, flexing forward to piano and then back, and I think that you're on the right track. So, I've really gone through this score and made lots of suggestions and lots of what seemed like corrections and so on, but it's not it has nothing to do with me. Right, this is all to do with you and your ideas, and how can I help you realize your get the best out of what you're doing. One last little thing here, and that is have all of your percussion. Like, I would move this bar line down to here, xylophone, tambourine, bass drum, and not have the bass drum it's kind of a single thing. It would be the timpani, I would think, that would be its own staff, right? And then the percussion as a section together. Or you could beam them. Excuse me. You could have the bar line and the bracket over all of the timpani, or excuse me, all of the percussion if you wanted to. But I would rather see the percussion as a group. I would rather see the percussion as a group than than the way that it is right there with the bass drum kind of all by itself down there. Anyways, so it just remains for me to thank you so much, Adrian, for this really awesome score. Just really enjoyed looking through it, and this is the first score of the Dotted Brev group, and it's just I was reviewing all of the scores last night, and pretty much everybody has supplied. I think one entry was partial, but everybody else has supplied a full length entry, and it just really that's just so wonderful to look at everything that is ahead and look at all of these complete entries that I'm going to go through, and so many good ideas and so many different approaches to different sections. And I really welcome the challenge, right? For you guys, the challenge is to orchestrate it, and for me, the challenge is becoming ever greater as there are more and more scores, more and more great things to look at. So but you are helping me to keep it fresh, and you are helping me to keep motivated with great comments and support of each other on the under the YouTube videos and on Patreon and on Facebook, and even a little bit of feedback coming through on Twitter now. Twitter is kind of the smallest part of the social media empire that is Orchestration Online. It's really a community. It's not an empire. I'm emperor of nothing. But but still, I like to continue to post on Twitter because I know a lot of people are really just active over there, and that's how they're going to run into this. So I'm right at the beginning of this process for the last two groups of full scores, the Dotted Brev and then the Longa at the end, and then we'll have a big finale, and I might have a live event where I answer questions and talk to people, and it will be very, very fun if I can pull it off. So let's think ahead to that coming towards the end of this month, and just keep strong with everything. Keep it strong with the comments below and the advice, feedback, your thoughts, and so on. Very, very welcome. And I will just keep it strong, making my way through these entries with a lot of joy and anticipation. See you all soon.